Hi, this is Chris Welch. We're um, together at my house. Elaine is back here from Kenya, and she's going to just share some of the things that have been going on. Christine is out the back. She'll be joining us in a bit. Um, but this is Elaine Waterfield.
Hi, my name, as Chris has said, is Elaine Waterfield, commonly known as Nasuna in Suna Migahuri, the daughter of Suna.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Nasuna.
I thought it was Nyasuna.
Well, it's Na.
All right, okay.
Nasuna.
Okay.
Nasuna Wega. And I've been there for the last 2.5 years. I'm not from a missionary society.
So you've just gone out on your own, haven't you?
Well, yes, God called me there, and I went with one missionary, or mission with a group of people, but I ended up in Sunamigori working with George Okoth with Redeem, which is a CBO, a community-based organisation.
Right.
Um,
A thing that you haven't really mentioned is that George was kind of prepared for your arrival, wasn't he?
well, yes, because he went to the mountain to pray in Homer Bay. The mount was Mount Sago Mountain, and they spent a few days up there. And George had a vision of me with people behind me, and in fact, his mother had visions and dreams of a white person coming there for a long time.
She's a Christian, is she?
She's a Christian, and they'd actually been praying for me because they were told that God would send me as a missionary in these visions and dreams. They'd been praying for my coming.
About how long?
It's been, say, a few years now they've been praying, because Margaret had visions and dreams, and when, as I say, when George went to the mountain, he actually saw me with a group of people in a vision. So they were prepared, but I got any idea. But over the last 2.5 years, we've got the background information to the problems that girls face, underage marriage, early pregnancies, lack of school fees, lack of sanitary towels. We've really researched and had football tournaments for girls to raise the profile of girl child education. We've been going round with a box from the Society Protecting the Unborn Child, talking about abortion, abstinence from sex, HIV and AIDS. And we've also in the process of building an integrated school for orphans, blind children and ordinary children with parents. And we have a vision too for a rehab, because there are so many people in that area who are drinkers of changa.
So what is Changa?
Changa is like an illicit brew, a bit like a whiskey, and it's made from cassava, millet and sugar cane, and it's boiled up, and then after it's distilled it's very powerful.
Very strong.
Yes.
So something like one of our stronger drinks.
Yes. And there's many men that drink it, and even women, because they have so many problems. They're not being able to send their children to school because of lack of money, lack of school fees, and just general poverty.
And children commit suicide, don't they?
Well, yes, they do. The children have committed, especially boys, have committed suicide because they're unable to go to school. So many of those children are very bright, but they have no school fees, and so they have to do work on the farm, taking bulls and cows to market, doing weeding and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And so they get frustrated because their educational abilities are lost just through lack of school fees. And when girls get pregnant, they also abort their babies. And one time it was terrible, because I went to see a young girl of 15. Her mother had tried to commit suicide by grinding glass and drinking it, and then that girl aborted her baby at 5 months premature, and thankfully we found the baby was alive, and we took it to the hospital, and we called him Jeremiah.
All right.
Yes. On the way we had a motorbike accident because we bumped into a load of donkeys. But yes, there's some terrible things that happen, but we've got all this information, but now we're truly looking for sponsorship and donors to be able to build the school for the blind, to be able to provide us with enough money to give those children school fees, and also to give them the sanitary towels, because what we've been doing is from our own pockets. I only get £170 a month, which is not a lot of money could be spent in a day. We've been doing it from our own pockets, sponsorships, from little monies from people on Facebook who have been ex-drunkards. One lady was a lap dancer, but she's become born again. It's through that loving servant heart that they've been helping us, but we do seriously need a proper sponsorship to be able to continue with the work that we're doing.
Yeah. So to make this absolutely clear to folk, you have no backing.
No.
You're out there doing 5 or 6 or 7 kind of strands of operation.
Yes.
As you personally get money, it is being demanded of you, almost ripped out of your hand.
Yes.
You've run up a personal debt of £1,000.
Yes.
And you're actually doing and involved with so many things that aren't pipe dreams, they're actually happening.
Yes.
So we have a half-built church right now,
Yes.
and the other places are being built or being prepared for.
The school, we've got one classroom for a school.
Yeah.
And the rehab is a vision.
Right.
If we had the money, it could be built very quickly.
Right.
Same as a school. And also, we've been going into the prison, because personally I've always been involved with prison ministry. So I've been going into Migori prison on and off for 2 years, of a Sunday or a Saturday preaching in the gospel. But more of late we've got a little bit more involved. And Pastor Peter, the chaplain, really wants a chapel.
Yeah.
Because they have no church, they just have services in their rooms where they sleep, and they need somewhere for men and women and the children to worship,
Yeah.
to be taught about God, a special place where they can go to and pray. And it's quite distressing, because there's 184 men in one room where they sleep, with one toilet. So if they're really sick with dysentery or whatever, it must be terrible. There is a white man there called Kevin who's on remand, and I've spoken to him, and we've gone into the women's prison and washed their feet and preached the gospel, done lots of things. But what really strikes me about the chaplain is his heart, because
Right.
he's actually looking after some of those children whose mothers are in the prison, and it's very difficult looking after his own children, sending them to school, never mind having to look after several of other children. But he does it, and he really has a heart for those prisoners. And it was wonderful, because the other week we had 60 men and women who were baptised, and there was 4 dedications of children.
How many? 59.
59.
Amazing.
It's amazing, and it's wonderful that they've got their own baptistry now, which they made the prisoners made themselves. It was very wonderful.
But that needed also a bit of sponsorship, didn't it?
Yes, it did need sponsorship.
Yeah,
yes.
so it came through. So none of these things come easy, and they have to be prayed about, and you have to believe for the money to come in.
Well, yes, and I remember once there was a young man called Eric, and he was given the chance to go to national school. Only his father was a peasant farmer, had no money. So Eric wanted to commit suicide. So George, who I work with, George O'Coff, went and counselled him, and I suggested that we went to the mountain. So we went to the mountain and prayed for school fees, and when we got back I remember that you'd donated some money. So
that was an amazing timing thing.
It was, because then he was able to go to national school, and now his father, although he struggles, it gave him incentive to be able to save money for those school fees.
Yeah.
But they struggle tremendously.
Right. Well, I'm embarrassed at the moment not being able to give more. Um, I'm in a peculiar situation where I'm a piano tuner and there just aren't that many pianos left. So I'm thinking, what on earth do I do? But
I do remember though, you also, I must tell you this is another amazing thing. There was a man called Justice, and he was an alcoholic, and we led him to the Lord, and one of his dreams was going back to school, because he never finished Form 4, it was like our secondary school, he never finished like O-levels. So thanks to yourself and somebody else who donated some money, he was actually able to go back to school, and he finished his first term. Obviously we're still looking for money now, but you know, people don't realise what they're doing actually bears so much fruit.
Yeah.
And can change somebody's life.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, in our terms, it's only so much money, but out there it means such a lot, doesn't it?
Well, it can change a person's life dramatically. So many people are very educated, but they haven't got any means to do it.
Yeah.
We've also
You mean that they're very clever?
They're very clever. They're very bright.
But they haven't got the money or circumstances to be able to do proper training. Yeah.
Yes, because of poverty, they leave after primary school. They never carry on their education.
Right.
And it's very distressing, because those children, if they were given the opportunity with school fees, they go on to further education. We are actually sponsoring, or my friends are sponsoring, 2 children, Bobbin and Elaine, and they've come first in their exams in their year.
Wow.
And if they reach the end of this year, Elaine will then be sponsored by Equity Bank.
Yeah.
And they'll carry on their education up to university.
Yeah.
So, you know, investing in somebody's education because of their being bright is very powerful, because Elaine would have else probably been sex trafficked to Nairobi or another big town.
Right.
Yes. It's just amazing, really, what God is doing in that little village of Chungani, because there's been several men who were hardened criminals and drinkers who have given their life to the Lord. And now one of them, Neto, he used to be a fisherman, and during the time that he was a drunkard, he only had girls. He wanted a boy, and one day through drunkenness he got a panga and cut the child.
Wow. Panga is a kind of a...
It's a big knife, what they chop.
Scythe.
Yes,
like a scythe. Yeah.
Yes. And when he became born again, and his life's really changed, he's now building the church. He's like one of the main people that instruct the building of the church, and he now has a son.
Wow.
He had 5 girls, and because he was faithful to God,
wow,
he's now been given a son.
Wow.
So that there's so many wonderful things, you know, that
yeah.
But as I say, if we were given provision,
yeah,
it would make such a difference.
Yeah.
You know, we can only do what we can do.
Yeah.
You can only do with what you can do with the little that we have.
Right. I'd like to say something here. This is straight out of the Bible, really. That struck me a few months ago. That when Jesus said, you know, you look and see the fields white for harvest. It's very interesting what he said next, because we kind of think, and this is the way we work in the West, we think Jesus said, well, you dash out madly and do something. Well, it doesn't say that. It says you pray to the Father who releases, trains, and explodes forth, because that's the Greek word, explodes forth, thrusts out workers. And it's good that Elaine shared that thing she did at the beginning. You see, she was stepping into something through obedience that God had set up beforehand by giving visions to the people. Look, this person's coming. So there's a whole realm. I mean, I call it working in the Melchizedek order. So you're working according to what we see God doing and building, and we're working with that, and it's God thrusting out workers. That's the reason why Elaine's been the right person for the job. It's really not her. It's something that's been set up that she's stepping into. So I couldn't encourage people enough to feel free to give. This is a person, and she's presumably going to be just part of some of the others that are already coming in, who are making such a difference because they are praying about things they do. They're trying to listen to God and just do what He says. It's fantastic, really.
Well, it is, because God looks into obedience and faith. I remember listening to a preacher in Nairobi who was talking about Lazarus. And, people, why didn't Jesus go in and heal him? Why did he wait 2 days until he was dead? And that's because God wants to see the glory from us having faith in him, and to show that he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead. And many times I've found in Africa that I've really been praying about something, and we go to the mountain, and when we've had the faith and we've really prayed and we've really believed, God does something.
Right.
And often we find that it's like water into wine.
Yeah.
And right at the very end, and for 3 weeks we went to the bank, insufficient funds, insufficient funds, insufficient funds, and right at the last moment we went to the mountain and we really prayed, and all of a sudden God provided.
Wow.
And I remember God provided me to go to Jerusalem for a holiday, and while waiting in the airport somebody actually paid my debt.
Right.
I'm back in debt again. But you think, where are you, God?
Yeah.
But he always turns up at the last moment when you really believe that God is going to do something.
Yeah.
And that's what we've really found. But so many people are looking for the big person and the big thing. Oh, Elaine, who are you with? Which missionary society are you with? And when you say that God's just sent you and you're just an ordinary Joe Block person, they kind of look at you, but God is interested in your heart. God is interested in your obedience. And he can use anybody. You don't have to be the big name and the big person.
Yeah.
If you're open and willing for God to do something, and you're willing to go where he sends you, then see what God will do.
Yeah. That's really good that you share that. Well, there's a guy. Have you heard of David Hathaway?
Yes.
Do you get newsletters from him?
No, but I know who you mean.
Yeah. So he has been prepared really to be this end time evangelist for decades and decades and decades, and including imprisonment in the communist country.
Yes.
And he's just always done exactly what God said. And before even the Iron Curtain opened, he was having a conference in Germany to prepare people. That's before anyone knew anything, But God said, look, I want this conference. But the latest thing, he sends these newsletters out, which again are a bit daunting, a bit like some of your cries for help. His was like, we need £300,000 sort of now, and you just feel it's sort of overwhelming, because he's only a one man kind of guy. He's got a team, but it's just really reliant on people sending stuff through. Well, what happened is he just sent out his latest newsletter and said people wondered what response happened after that newsletter. He said £200,000 came in through the response to the newsletter, but he said all of a sudden this person provided £1 million. Wow.
Do that for us, really.
And his thing is preparing for just an amazingly big operation in Poland, of all places. That's this year. And he says that they've already got orders for 600 buses to the event, and they're expecting 1,000.
Yeah.
1,000 buses.
Well, some people call me a beggar.
Yeah.
I've heard people call me a beggar.
That's what it sounds like,
Well,
doesn't
it does, but actually, in the Bible it says, ask and it shall be given, seek and you shall find.
Yeah.
And because these people are so desperate with their HIV and AIDS, people are dying, children are dying every day. Every day there's a funeral of a child, and you see so much struggle. That is why you're asking for help. I've given so much of my time and so much of myself and all of my money. And that's why I'm asking people for help. Because people in Kenya, especially in Chungani where I am, there is so much desperation. And I just believe sometimes that God will speak into somebody's life to actually help you. But, you know, here we've got so much, in England we've got so much, we can't really understand poverty until you actually go out there. And it is frustrating and it is difficult, but God has been doing a wonderful job of providing, healing, saving people, and sometimes you don't know what else you can do, but I know that and if God doesn't show up, those people are truly stuffed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.